Hello guys and welcome back to the third part of this video on Instagram cloning, where we will be developing the complete backend that we need to have for cloning our Instagram app. So in our last video tutorial, that is on second part of this video tutorial series, over there you have seen that how efficiently we have cloned our Instagram UI using the React framework. So similarly like that, over here also we will be creating the complete backend application that we need for our Instagram app. Starting from building the controller to setting up the database, we will be covering each and everything that you need to know for creating a REST API using the Spring Boot application. So let's start with the today's video of understanding how we will be implementing our backend application. But before starting with the implementation of the code, let's understand few of the concepts related to system design that you need to have for designing the backend of the system. So let's start with understanding the basic system design that you need to know for building this Instagram app. But over here what we will be discussing is totally a basic level of designing. But in real world the actual implementation is much more complex than that of what we will be discussing over here. So if you really want to know that how the real Instagram is designed from the system designing perspective, feel free to let me know in the comment. I will be creating a separate video on system design for Instagram. But over here, let's first discuss the architecture by which we will be building our backend application. So over here, let's discuss the basic system design that we will be following for cloning our Instagram app. So over here, if you see that over here lies our client application, which means that from that our Instagram application will be handled. And as you know, we will be deploying our Instagram application in the cloud. So this will be our application server where we will be implementing our front end, and this is the server where we will be deploying our backend applications. That is all the APIs that we will be making in this video. So this is basically our deployment structure where we will be deploying our backend and our front end codes. And over here for building this end-to-end application, we will be using three types of additional support. One is the Firebase authentication, by which we will be authenticating each and every user who is trying to log into our application, and the metadata that is written by this Firebase, that is the email ID, the profile picture and other metadata that are related to the user, we will be saving it into our MySQL DB. And since we are dealing with the Instagram application, so there we have to deal with the image upload. And for image upload, we will be taking the help of the Firebase storage, where we will be storing all the images that a user will be uploading. But all the metadata of the images will be stored in our local database using our backend API. So this will be the complete structure of our Instagram application. So let's first see the flow by which a client will log into our application and will use our Instagram application. So as soon as a client will try to log into our application, they will go to the browser and will try to access the URL where we have hosted our application. Let's for example, it is www.instagramclone.com. So once the user log into this application, the user will go into our application server, and since the user is using our application for the first time, he or she will be land to our first page, that is the login page over here, where the user will be given the provision of sign up and sign in. And once the user puts the correct credential over there, from there we will be validating our user using the Firebase authentication system, where if the user have put the correct credential, he will be given back the positive response that the user has been authenticated by the Firebase application, and if so, the Firebase application in his response will give some of the metadata for the user, such as the login time, the email ID, the user ID, etc. And if the user has been authenticated correctly, we will try to save the metadata of the user into our local database, and over there we will be calling our API support that we will be creating over here. So the first API that we will be creating for saving the user metadata into our database is /user, which will be the endpoint for saving all the data of the user, which will be the actual endpoint of our API for saving the user metadata into the database. And once this complete cycle completes, that is putting the right credential and saving the metadata to the database, our API should give a positive response to our user. So it will go back to our front end, and over there the user will get redirected to our next page, that is our home page, which is actually the main page of our Instagram. And once the user log into our home page, there based on the user ID, we have to present a personalized Instagram application for that user, which means we have to show all the images that are relevant to the user. And for that, using our backend API, we will try to access our local database and we'll try to get all the images and the posts relevant to the user. And for that, we will be using our other APIs, that is the post API for posting all the images and the contents in our Instagram, the status API for uploading a status for a user, and the comments API to provide any comment to our post. So these are the 4 APIs that we will be creating over here for the creation of end-to-end Instagram application. And over here also, when the user will try to upload any post or the status to our Instagram, we will be storing all the images and the status in our Firebase storage application so that we can store all the images and the status efficiently and securely. So this was the complete flow by which a client will interact with our Instagram application, and how our application will internally call our REST APIs to save the data and retrieve the data in our database. So I hope you guys have got an overview of how we will be implementing our architecture over here. Now let's go into a deep dive discussion of how we will be creating our REST endpoint and what will be the schema of our database table. So let's go to our next slide. So over here, for building our application, we will be primarily using 4 data tables. One is the user for storing the metadata of the user such as name, username, user ID, profile picture, etc. Next is the status table where we will be storing the metadata of the status such as when the status was uploaded and what is the image URL of the status, because we will be storing the status externally using the Google Firebase application. Next is the post database where we will be storing the metadata of a particular post, and then the comment database which will list down all the comments for a particular post. Now let's discuss the schema by which we will be designing our table. So the user table that we will be creating will consist of 4 attributes. Number 1, the user ID for uniquely identifying a user. Next is a username which we use for Instagram app. The name of the user which will store the actual name of a particular user, and then the profile image which will store the image of a user. So this will be the first table that we will be creating for storing the metadata of the user. Next comes our second table, that is the status table, where we will be storing all the status related information over here. And the information that we will be holding over here is the status ID which will uniquely identify our status in our database. Next, the user ID, which means that who is uploading this corresponding status. Next, the path, that is the image path that we will be storing in our Firebase application, and the timestamp, which means that at what time the status got uploaded. So these are the metadata which we will be storing in our status table. Next comes the post, where we will be having a post ID for uniquely identifying a post, the user ID for identifying that which user have uploaded this corresponding post. Next, the path for the unique identification of the image, the timestamp and the like count. And last is the comment table, where we will be uploading the comment ID, the user ID who have uploaded the comment, the post ID for which the comment is attached to, because a comment cannot reside alone, it have to be within a post or something, the timestamp of the comment, and the comment, that is the actual content of the comment. So this is basically the database schema that we will be designing in this tutorial. Let's move to the next slide, which will talk about the endpoints that we need to create for our API support. So as you know, for a normal REST API, we normally provide 3 to 4 endpoints. Number 1, the post endpoint for saving the data, the get endpoint for retrieving the data, the put endpoint for updating the content, and the delete for deleting a particular record from our database. So over here in this tutorial, we will be designing the minimum number of endpoints that we need for cloning our Instagram application. So over here you can see that in some of the endpoints, I have marked it as enhancement, which means that I won't be implementing these API endpoints, rather you can practice it at your own in your home so that you can provide further enhancement to our application. So over here for the user API, we will be supporting 2 endpoints. Number 1, the post endpoint, where we will be submitting the metadata of the user, and the get endpoint for retrieving the metadata of a particular user. So these are the two endpoints that we will be implementing over here. And for the status over here also, we will be supporting two endpoints. Number one, the post for saving a status of the user, and get for retrieving the status that are available in our Instagram database. And the next endpoints that we will be supporting for the post and the comments are over here. So over here also, for the post we will be supporting the post and the get method, and for the comment we will be supporting the post and the get method over here. So if you are not familiar with all these endpoints and all these things of the REST API, don't worry. Once we will be implementing all these things, it will be very easy for you to understand in detail. So enough of theoretical discussion, though it was very useful, because until and unless you do not design a system properly, it will be very difficult for you to do the actual implementation of the software. Because the design document and the design architecture is the first and the foremost thing that you have to do for building any enterprise system in your real world. So enough of discussion, let's start with the implementation of our APIs. So we will start with our empty Spring Boot project. So we will go to a Spring website, that is start.spring.io, from where we can create an empty Spring Boot application. So let's start with the creation of an empty Spring Boot application. So over here we will go with the default setting as a Maven project, and we will keep as 2.4.2. So if you want, you can change accordingly. So over here in this section, let's rename the project artifacts and the name of the project. So I will be giving the name of this project as technical interview, and I will name this project, that is the artifact name, as Instagram clone. And for the version of Java, I will be choosing version 8 over here. So we are almost done with the initial setup of our Instagram app. So let's start adding our Spring Boot dependency so that we can implement our REST APIs. So let's go to add dependencies over here, and let's add the dependency one by one. So the first dependency that we will be using over here is the Themeleaf. After that we will be using JPA, that is the Spring JPA. Then we will be adding the REST service over here, and after that we will be including a database in our project, and for that we will be using the MySQL dependencies over here. So I hope we are almost done with the dependency. So if we need any further dependency while developing the project, we will be adding those dependency in our POM file. So as of now, we will go with this basic setting of our Spring Boot application, and let's build our project. So we'll click on this generate button over here. So the Spring application over here will generate a project over here, and you can see that the project got downloaded over here. So let's open this project. So let's unzip this file over here. So we got the project over here, which is known as the Insta clone. So let's now import this Maven project in Eclipse so that we can start building our REST API. So over here we have opened our Eclipse. Let's first import the Maven project over here. So we will go to the import project over here. So if you do not find the import option over here, you can go to file, then import from here, and over here search for Maven. Under Maven you will select existing Maven project. So click on existing Maven project, go to next, and choose the folder that you have downloaded from the internet, that is from start.spring.io. So over here I will go to our downloads and click the Instagram clone over here and click on open. So you can see that the Eclipse have imported the POM file over here. Let's click on finish, and over here you can see that the Eclipse is downloading all the libraries and the Maven dependencies over here. So this will take a minute or a while. So let's wait until this get completed. So over here we have successfully downloaded all the Maven dependencies. So let's open the project. So we'll go to Windows, Show View, and Project Explorer. So over here you can see we have successfully imported all the dependencies over here, and here is the POM file for this project. So as you remember that from our Spring Starter project, we have imported the dependencies like Spring JPA, Spring Data, and Themeleafs, as well as we have imported a database, that is MySQL connector. So let's start with the implementation of our APIs. So we'll go to our source over here, and we'll expand, and we'll go to our main class, that is the Instagram clone application. So over here you can see that this project is already annotated with Spring Boot application, which means that this project is a Spring Boot application. So let's start with the creation of the APIs that we need for our project. So as we have discussed a few minutes back, the first API or the microservice that we need to build over here is the user service, where we will be creating the endpoints such as post, get, put and delete. Over here we will be implementing the post and get for our implementation, because these are the primary and the basic tool that we need to build for creating our application. But if you want some enhancement in your application, that is the additional features such as an user can update their name or profile pic, you have to implement the put functionality over there. And if you want to implement the functionality such that the user can delete their existing profile, then you have to provide the endpoint like delete. So let's start with the creation of these two primary endpoints, that is the post and the get. So the post means that we can submit a data into our database, and get means that we can retrieve the value for that corresponding user. So let's start with the implementation. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to provide a schema something like this, because this is the structure of the data that we need in our front end. So for a particular user, the minimum requirement that we need is we need the user ID of a particular user, the username, the name and the URL for the profile pic. So let's start with the implementation of our first microservice, and that is for the users. So over here the first thing that we will be doing is we will be creating a folder called as entity, which will consist of all the entity class that we need for this service. So over here first we will create a package called as entity. And within this entity package, we have to create the first schema, that is the user over here. So let's create a class called as users, and let's annotate it as an entity class. So always remember to import this first class, that is the javax.persistent, and let's name this class as user. So as we have discussed in our previous video that our front end is expecting some of the metadata of the user. And those metadatas are the user ID, the username, the name of the user and the image. So let's create this attribute one by one. So the first thing that we will be creating is we will be creating an auto-generated ID for each and every user, which we will be annotating with ID. And since this will be an auto-generated one, we will be annotating this with generated value, which means that the value of this ID will get generated automatically by the application. Now let's keep on adding the other attributes that we need for users. So the first metadata that we will be adding over here is the user ID of a particular user, which we will be receiving from the Firebase application that we will be integrating in our next video. So let's over here provide the support for the user ID. And since this user ID is the mandatory field for all the user, we will be providing an annotation called as not null. Now let's add the other attributes, that is the username, next the real name of the user, and the fourth attribute that we will be supporting over here is the profile picture of the user, and for that we will be storing the URL for the profile picture, which means that we will be actually storing profile picture in our Firebase application, and we will get the URL from there and we will be saving that URL in our DB. So let's save the URL for the profile picture. So these are the minimum attribute that we need for creating our Instagram application. But as you know, in our real application there are thousands and thousands of attributes that they are saving in our database. But since over here we are creating a clone of a basic Instagram application which almost support each and every functionality, over here we will be storing some minimum attributes that we need for designing our system. So over here, since we are done with declaring all the metadata that we need for a particular user, let's now create the class and other getter and setter for this user. So the first thing that we will be creating is the default constructor and then the parameterized constructor. So we will right click over here, we will go to source, and over here we will be creating generate constructor with superclass. So the first thing that we will be creating is we will create a default constructor over here. After that we will be creating a parameterized constructor which is generate constructor using field. So over here we will select all this attribute and we will click on generate. Let's now create the getter and setter for this class. So again we will go to our source and we'll go to generate getter and setter, and over here we'll select all and click on generate. So yes, we are done with getter and setter and everything that we need over here for this user class. So over here we are done with the initial setup of this user class over here. So let's start with the creation of the API endpoint. So as you know that in our Spring Boot application, for creating any REST API, we need three components. Number one is the controller, number two is the service class, and number three is the repository that you need to create for a particular entity. So let's start with the creation of each component one by one. So the first component that we will be creating is the controller service. So we will first create a package called as controller. And over here we will create our first controller for our user class, and we will name that as user controller. So the first and the primary thing that you have to do over here is you have to annotate this class as a REST controller so that the application can understand that this class belongs to a controller. So we'll annotate as the REST controller over here, and we have to set the endpoint for this controller. So if you see that the endpoint of our user service is /user. So over here also in our controller, we will map this controller with /user. So we will give the annotation as request mapping, and over here we will give the path as /users. So this means that whatever the path that ends with /user will hit this controller over here. So we are done with setting up the controller. Let's now define the two methods. One is post and another is get. So the first function that we will be defining is the post mapping over here. So we will declare a function that will map to the post function. So let's write a function over here. So over here you can see that we are creating a function called as submit user. So as you know that the post request means that the value will get submitted to the database. So over here also we have given a relevant name that is submit user, and we will map this function with the post URL. So over here we will annotate this function as post mapping, and over here we will be declaring as empty string, which means that anything that ending with /user will go within this post mapping. So let's write the next function that will map to our get function. So if you are new to this Spring Boot REST API and if you are not understanding that what actually happening over here, just wait for a minute. I will be explaining each and every component over here once I am done with a single flow over here. So as of now, just be with me and try to follow as much as you can. And once we are done with the entire flow of this user application, then I will be explaining each and every component over here. So let's get back to our implementation. So over here, we will be implementing our next functionality, that is the get, which will retrieve all the user details for a particular ID. So over here, first I will write a method for implementing the get functionality. And over here you can see that within this get URL we will be passing the corresponding ID of the user for which we want to retrieve the entire user detail. So over here in the parameter we will be passing the corresponding ID. And the next thing that we have to do is we have to map this function to the get URL. So over here we'll do the get mapping. So if you are not familiar, this syntax means that over here through URL we will be passing the user ID of a particular user, and that is why over here we are mentioning it within the curly braces. And since we are sending the value of the user ID in the URL path, we have to map this user ID with this path variable. So we will annotate this with the path variable. And since this function is expecting to return an object of type user, so we will be sending a dummy user object from here as of now. So over here we are done with both the post as well as the get URL. The only thing that we have to mention over here during the post mapping is over here we have to pass the parameter that we will be passing during the request. So while submitting the form, we will be sending the user metadata in the request body. So over here we will be mapping the request body into our parameter. So thus we have successfully built our first controller, that is for the user. Let's now test this user controller so that we can proceed further. So let's first run the project and see whether we get any compilation error or not. And after that we will test this API one by one. So we'll run the main class over here, run as Java application. So over here you can see that we got an error because we have not set our DB connection over here. So let's set the DB connection for this. So we'll go to resource and application.properties file over here, and over here we will be setting up our DB connection. So over here we will be establishing our DB connection. So before establishing the DB connection, we have to first set our DB. So as we have discussed in our first video, we have set the MySQL DB in our machine. So let's first open that MySQL DB. So first we will start the MySQL server. So you can see that the server is up and running. So let's now go to our terminal and access our DB over there. So to access our DB over here, the first thing that we will do is we will write MySQL -u, that is the user ID, which will be root, and then the password, that is -p, and click on enter. So over here it will ask for the password. So let's give the password what you have said during your installation, which will be password by default. So over here, after you have given successfully your credential, you can see that I am into my MySQL DB. So over here, let's first create a DB for our application. So over here, first we will create our DB. So let's create a DB for this application. We will name as Instagram clone DB. Put a semicolon and click on enter. So you can see over here that one row got affected, means our DB got created. So let's see whether it got actually created or not. So we'll write show database. I'm sorry, it's show databases with an S. So over here you can see, so we got our DB set up in our MySQL. Let's now close over here and let's put the connection in our file. So this is a simple URL connection. I will be directly pasting over here, as well as I will be providing this connection in the description below. Mostly it is same for all the machine, because the MySQL server will be running on 3306 port, and this is the name of the DB that you have created just now. So if you have just created a different DB, so just rename it accordingly. So over here we are done with your DB connection. Let's save it and let's run the application one more time. So, but before proceeding further, I want to do one more housekeeping activity, that is I want to change the structure of this project. So over here if you see that the structure is not well organized. So if you just see the structure of this project right now, I will go to properties and open this structure over here. So you can see that our com, that is the parent, is in a separate folder where our main reside, and our controller and the entity is residing outside the main body. So I actually want this entity and the controller within this single package, that is within this com. So I will be just changing the position of this package. So I will right click on this package and click on refactor, rename. So actually what it does, if you open this folder again, so you can see over here that our controller has now shifted from here, that is outside the com, to within the Instagram clone. So actually I am just changing the folder structure over here. So over here also let's move the entity package within the parent folder. So yes, now it's looking good. So whatever the packages we will be creating from now will be under this directory, that is com. So let's rebuild this project. So you can see that our application is running successfully at 8080 port. So we are almost done with the initial setup of the application. So let's test it out, and for that we will be using the application called as Postman that I told you to install in our first video. So let's open the Postman application over here. So over here you can see that we got our Postman open. So let's first test the first controller, that is the first service of our application, and that is the user service. So over here, since our application is running on the local host, we'll write localhost and give the port as 8080. So over here you can see that the user controller is mapped to /users. So we'll give /users, and over here you can see that the post is mapped to an empty string and the get is mapped to a path where we will be sending the user ID over here. So let's first test the post method over here. So if you are new to the Postman application, I will tell you that from this drop down that is provided over here, you can mimic any of the method that you need during your testing process. So over here we will be first testing the post method. So we will select as post and we will be sending the request body as our parameter, because this function is expecting a request body of type user. So let's see what is the definition of the type user. So the definition of the type user is a user should have a user ID, username, name of the user, and then a profile link. So over here we will go to our Postman, and in our Postman we will go to our body, and over here we will select as raw, then we will select type as JSON. So this will be actually our request body which we will be sending from our front end. So let's create the request body over here. So if you are not familiar with this flow and if you are not understanding what I am doing exactly right now, I already told you, just hold for a minute over here. I will be explaining each and everything in detail so that it will be easy for you to understand the code, as well as you can write any of the API that you want for your project. So let's go back and let's write the request body over here. So the first parameter that I have to send as a request body is the user ID. So I will give user ID and I will provide a dummy user ID over here. The next is the username, then comes the name, and after that the profile image, which is nothing but the URL of your profile image, which I will be providing as a dummy URL. So let's submit this post over here and let's see whether we get any error or not. Great. So over here you can see that for our service API, over here for the post URL, we are getting the response as true, which we have hard coded in our post URL service over here. So since the controller has been configured correctly, we can easily proceed from here. So let's proceed further with the implementation of the service class for the user. So over here we will create one more package called as service, where we will be keeping all the service class for our APIs. So we will right click on our parent folder and we will create a package over here called as service. And within this service package we will create a service class called as user service. So the first thing that we have to define over here is we have to tell the application that this belongs to a service class. So we will annotate this class with the service annotation, and over here we will write the logic for our service class. So the two methods that we need to create over here within the service class is, first we have to create the logic for submitting our request to the database, and number two we have to write the logic of retrieving the values, that is the user metadata, from our database. So over here also, just like our controller, we will be creating two methods, one for submitting the data to our database and another for retrieving the values. So let's write the two functions over here, then we will be integrating this thing with our controller. So over here you can see that in our service class we have written two functions, one for submitting the value into our database and number two for retrieving the metadata of the user. Let's now connect this service class with our controller. So over here what we will do, we will take the advantage of the dependency injection and we will call the service class method. So over here we will create an object of the service class, that is the user service, and let's name the reference of this class as user service, and we will annotate this reference as AutoAdd. So right now our controller class have the reference of the service class over here. Now let's call the service class method that we have created from our controller. So over here from controller we will be calling the service class method, that is user service dot. So okay, you can see that the method that we have created in our service class is not getting listed over here because we have provided the access as private. So let's make it as public and save it. So over here we'll go back to our controller and now we'll click dot, and you can see that we got the method called as submit metadata for user, and over here we'll be passing the user object as our parameter because this is the data we need to save in our DB. Similarly from our get method over here we will be calling the user service dot display user metadata, and over here we will be passing the user ID for which we want to display the metadata. So over here you can see we are done with half of our code, where we have created the entire controller for our user service and also we have created the service class for this user service. Now let's create the actual repository for the user class by which we can submit the data into our DB. So for that we will be creating one more package called as repository over here. And over here we will be creating an interface called as user repo. So the first thing we have to do over here is we have to mark this class as a repository so that the application understands that this is our repository class. And over here we will be extending class called as CRUD repository. So here you can see that this CRUD repository is asking for the data types of the parameter. So the first thing is we have to specify the type of the class that will be saved in the DB, that is the user over here. And the next thing is we have to give the primary key of this user class. So if you go to the user class, over here you can see that our primary key is ID, which is of type int. So over here also we will make is as integer. And let's save it. Now the final thing that we have to do from our service class is we have to send the data from the service class to the repo class. So for that we will be creating an object of the repo class, just the similar way we have created a reference of the service class. Over here also we will be auto-wiring our repo class. So over here we got the reference of our repo class. Now we have to put the final command to submit the data to our database. So over here we'll go to our user repo and we will write the command to submit it to our DB. And over here we will be sending the user details as our parameter. And the next functionality that we have to write is we have to write the functionality of retrieving the metadata of the user based on the user ID. Here we will be passing the user ID over here. Let's click on save, and from our user ID service we will be calling this to function over here so that we can actually submit the data in our DB. So over here we'll call our user repo dot save, and over here we will be passing the user as our parameter, and we will return this statement from here. Similarly over here we will try to retrieve the metadata of the user based on the user ID. So we will be invoking the function that is find user by user ID. So we'll call user repo dot find user by ID, and over here we'll be passing the user ID as our parameter. So over here we are almost done with our basic structure of the user service, where we have created our controller, our entity class, our service class and our repo class. So let's just run our application and see whether we get any error or not. So over here you can see we are not getting any error over here. So let's test out the functionality. So what we'll do, we'll again submit the same data from our postman, that is this one. So over here we will be passing this as our post parameter. So let's click on save. So over here we have returned true. So let's see whether it's actually working or not. So we'll do a get operation over here, and we'll try to fetch the data that we have saved by sending the user ID as a parameter. So if everything goes correct in this flow, then on submitting this URL, we should get back this metadata in our response over here. So yes, you can see we got a response, but this is an empty response from our service. Let's see why. So we'll go to our controller. So over here you can see we have written an empty user object from here, and that is why we got an empty response here also. So rather than returning an empty response, let's put the return in line number 30. And let's restart the server. So if everything goes right, the data we have submitted over here should come up as a response over here. So let's click on send. And over here you can see that we got exactly the same response that we have submitted into our DB, which means that the data is actually getting saved in our DB. So over here we have perfectly created our first API of submitting a value from the front end to back end. So let's now fine tune the code a bit, and then I will be explaining each and every details that I have coded over here, so that it will be easy for you to understand if you are new in creating a REST API for any service. So over here what I will be doing is I will be going to the controller, and over here instead of returning a hard-coded string as true, over here I will be returning the user from here. So I will return the user, which means that if I submit any metadata of the user, once this gets saved, I will also get back the corresponding user detail as our response. So I think we are almost done with our user service. Let's now rerun this code so that everything should work end to end. So I'll go to Postman. So first I will save some data from here. So I'll go to post. So one thing over here I have to change is I have to change the type over here, because this is case sensitive. So over here I is capital and N is capital for name, and image also I is capital. So let's submit some dummy value over here. So let's save this user ID in our DB. So I'll click on send. So over here you can see that I got the same response from our backend, which means that the data got successfully saved in our DB. Now let's try to retrieve the same data from our server. So we'll do a get operation over here, and in the URL I will be passing the user ID of the user for which I need the metadata. So let's give it 115 and click on send. And yes, over here also we are getting the same response, means the persistent of the value in our DB is working fine. So if you just really want to open the DB and see all the value, let's also do that so that it will be easy for you to understand that how everything is working. Let's open the terminal, and over here let's go into our MySQL DB from our terminal. Let's give the password. So over here we know that the DB where we are saving all the data is named as Instagram clone DB. So let's use that. And let's try to see whatever the data that we have saved over here. So we'll do a select star from users. So over here you can see these are the total number of rows that we have saved over here. So let's try out one more to see that whether it's actually working. So over here you can see we have 6 entries in our DB. So let's try out with one more. So we'll go to our post over here, and over here we'll change our user ID, and let's give the name as technical interview, which you should not forget to subscribe. And let's change the profile picture, and let's click on save. So you can see it got saved successfully. Now let's see in the DB directly. So we'll again do select star from user ID. So over here you can see that one more row got added over here, and that is the 7th row, which is named as technical interview with profile image as this and whatever the parameter that we have sent in our metadata. So brilliant, the entire user service is actually working as we have expected. So since we are done with our first API service, that is our user API, as promised, let's now discuss the flow of execution. So if you are familiar with the flow of how a REST API works, you can skip 1 or 2 minutes of this video. But if you are not familiar with the way how a REST API works internally, I would request you to go through this part of the video, because over here I will be explaining in detail why I have implemented some of the modules such as controller, service class and the repo class over here. So let's have a deep dive explanation of the flow of the REST API. So in a large scale general application, the best possible way by which a front end talks to a backend is using a REST API. And in our last video, we have completed the implementation of our front end. And in this video, since we are implementing our backend, which means that we are implementing our REST API over here, we have to first understand that how a REST API works internally. So what actually happens is, when a front end wants to talk to our backend service, that is with our database, the only possible way by which a front end can talk to the database is through the REST API. And for that, within the REST service, we primarily provide 4 methods, one as post, one as get, one as delete and another as boot. So using these 4 methods of accessing a REST API, our front end talks to our backend. So what happens in our real world is, let's take an example that a user comes to our application, which means it comes to the front end of our application, and he or she fill up some of the form and submit the form so that the data get persisted within the DB. So what internally we do, from the front end we call our backend service to save the data in the DB. And while submitting the form within the request, we pass the payload of the user. Over here in this case, for our application, the payload is the username, name of the user and the profile link. And when we are submitting this payload using this post URL, that is localhost/user, at that time in our backend service, the first call goes to the controller, where based on the request path, our parent controller divert the request to the respective controller. So over here, since in this URL /user is our requested path, and that is why the controller is diverting the request to our user controller along with the payload that we are sending from our front end. And once the request has been received by the controller, the controller checks the method by which the request has been submitted by the front end. So over here, since we are sending it by a post URL, the controller will invoke the post service class over here. So if you have remembered that within our service class, we have created two methods, one for post service and another for the get service. So since over here we are submitting the form, that is we are using the post service, our flow will go from the controller to the post URL over here. And within this post service, the controller will also send the payload along with the request. And within our service class where all our business logic reside, over here we see the data and we will invoke our repo class where we have to send this exact data to our repo class so that we can submit this data into our database. So I hope you guys have understood the flow by which each and every REST API works internally. So it's actually a path by which we are talking between the front end and the database. And based on the internal method and the payloads by which we are calling an API, the API will divert the payloads and the requests to different services built within itself, and it will submit it to our database. So I hope you guys have got a thorough understanding of how internally a data flow within the REST API. So if you have completely understand this flow, we can proceed further for implementing the remaining APIs. So since we are done with our user API, let's start with the creation of our next API service, and that is for the status. And for that we will be providing the three endpoints over here, and that is post to submit a status data into our backend, then get to retrieve all the status from our backend, and delete for deleting a particular status for the user. But that will be an enhancement problem for you guys. So let's start with the implementation of post and the get over here for the status service. So we'll go back to our code. So over here we will be creating our status service also in this API. But in the real microservice application, you can create altogether a different project for your status service, so that each and every service can be deployed on different machine, so that after deployment the traffic or the load of your server get distributed uniformly across different servers. But over here, since this is a demo project, we will be creating all the microservice in a single project over here. So similarly, just like our user service, we will start with the creation of the entity class for the status. And for that, first we have to see that what are the metadata or the parameters that we have to create for the status service. So over here you can see that for the status service we need 4 attributes. Number 1, the status ID. Number 2, the user ID, the path of the status, which means the image that we will be uploading, and then the timestamp at which the status got uploaded. So let's start with the implementation of the entity class for the status. So first over here within this entity package, we will be creating our first class called as status. And just like before, we will be annotating this class as entity class. And we will be naming this entity as status, which means that in the backend within the DB, this status class will get saved with the table name as status. So over here, since we are done with creating the entity, let's start building our attribute over here. So the first attribute that we will be creating is a auto-generated ID for the status. So we will be annotating with ID and with generated value. Now the next attribute that we have to add is the status ID, user ID, path and the timestamp. So let's add it. So since over here we are done with all the attribute of the status class, let's now create the constructor and the getter setter for this class. So first we will create our default constructor over here. Next we will create our parameterized constructor. And next we will be creating the getter and setter for all these attributes. So over here we are done with our entity class. Let's now move in the creation of our next class, and that is the status controller. So over here within the controller package, we will be creating our controller class. So let's name it as status controller. And as usual, let's annotate it with the REST controller over here. So if we go into the endpoints of our status service, over here you can see that both the endpoints for the post and the get ends with /status, But over here the only difference is the method by which we are submitting the request. So let's create it over here. So first in the controller what we'll do, we'll first set the request path over here. So we'll annotate with request path, and over here we'll be setting up the controller for the status. So we'll give /status. So over here within the controller class we have to set the provision of the two methods, that is the post and the get. So over here first we will create two functions, one for the post and another for get. So over here you can see we have created two methods, one for submitting the status and another for retrieving all the status. So over here if you just see the return type of the method, here you can see that this is an array list of status. Means it will retrieve all the status that are available in the database for a particular user. Whereas over here in the submit method, we are sending back actual status if we have successfully submitted the status in our database. And over here in the parameter, just like our user service, over here also we will be sending the status in the request body as our parameter. So we will be annotating it with request body and we will receive the status as our request body. So I hope now this is clear to you, because the way of implementing each and every API is more or less similar. So let's now create the method endpoint over here. So over here we will be submitting the status, and that is why we will be mapping the post URL over here. And the URL pattern of this post mapping will be blank, since in our documentation over here we have mentioned like this. Similarly for our get service, over here we will be providing the get mappings annotation over here. So over here we are done with two of our controller, and that is post and the get. Now we have to create the service class where we will write the actual business logic. So we'll create a class in our service package, and over here we will be creating the status service class. So as before, we will be annotating this class with the service annotation. And over here we have to handle two of the functionality, and that is one for submitting the data to the database and number two for retrieving the value. So over here we will be implementing the actual logic of submitting and retrieving the value. So let's create the two method over here. So over here you can see we have implemented the structure of the service class where we will actually write the logic of the service class. So let's call this service class method from our controller. So as usual we will create an object of the status service at the top, and we will call those method from our controller. So let's create an object over here and let's annotate it with AutoWare. And over here within this controller we will be calling the method that we have created in this service class. So the first method that we have to call is submit data into DB. Similarly over here we will be calling the service class method, and that is retrieve value from DB. So over here we are done with our controller class. So let's implement the business logic of submitting and retrieving the value from our database. And the first thing that we have to create is we have to create the actual repository object in our repository package. So over here we will go to our repo package, and over here we will be creating our status repo, which will be a type interface. So the first annotation that we have to provide over here is we have to tell the application that this is a repository class. And then we have to extend the CRUD repository over here. So since over here we are creating object of the status in our database, so over here in the parameter we will be setting the type of the object as status, and over here we have to give the data type of the primary key of status, which is of type integer. So we are done with our repo class. Now let's define the method that will actually post the data to our database. So the first one is we have to submit the data to the database, and for that we will be invoking the function that is save. And the next one that we have to do is we have to retrieve the value from the DB, and for that we will be invoking the method that is find all. So over here we are done with our repo class. Now let's do the simple activity of calling this repo services from our service class. So first we will create an object of the repo class. and let's over here call those methods from this service class. Similarly, for the retrieve status also, we will be invoking the find_all method that we have implemented within our repo class. So over here, if you see, we have already done with the status service that we have just created. So over here, we have created our status, which is our entity class. After that, we have created the controller over here. Then we have created our business logic within our service class. And after that, we have also created the repo for the status. So over here, we are almost done with each and everything that we need to create for our status service. So let's run this project and let's see whether we get any compilation error or not. So nice, you can see that our application is running on 8080 port successfully, means there is no compilation error over here. So let's now test this application using the Postman service. So the first API that we will be testing over here is the post service over here. So for testing this API, we will be first opening our Postman application, and over here we will be testing the first endpoint, and that is the post endpoint over here. So over here you can see that our status controller is mapped with the URL path as /status. So we will change it accordingly. And since over here we are checking the post service, which means that with this request we also have to send the request body as our parameter. So just as before, we will go to the body tag, and over here we will be changing the body of this post request, which will be of type status. So we'll go to a status entity which looks something like this. So over here we will be passing the status ID, user ID, path and the timestamp as our request body parameter. So let's change it. And let's click on send. So great. So over here you can see that we got the status object as our response to this service, which means that our data got successfully submitted to our DB. So let's open the MySQL DB and check whether the data actually got persisted over there or not. So over here you can see the data got persisted in our DB successfully, which means that our API is actually working fine. So let's test out the GET API over here. And over here we will be just sending this request into our application. So let's click on send. So over here you can see that this is the one status that's reside in our DB, and that is why it is coming in the form of an array. So if there are multiple status available in our Instagram DB, then multiple instances of this status will come into our response just the way we need for our front end. So let's insert few more status over here to see whether this function is actually working or not. So over here we have inserted 2 to 3 data. Let's do a get operation over here and let's see whether all the 3 status that we have inserted in the DB are coming successfully or not. So let's click on send. So over here you can see that all the status are coming the way we need for our front end. So over here, if you remember that while we were building our front end UI, there while creating the status bar, we have created a mock JSON file to mimic the backend application. So over here you can see that this was the response that we were expecting from our backend. So we have the image URL, but over here we need the username as one of the response from our backend. So over here we have to add one more attribute over here, and that is the username field. So we'll add one more parameter over here called as username. And let's create the setter and getter method for this username. So we are done with our setter and getter. Let's now see how we will get the value of this username into our status field. So we'll go to our status service where we normally write our business logic. So over here, if you remember that while retrieving the data from our database, we were using the functionality called as find_all, which will return in response all the status that are available in the DB. And the response that is coming from the DB is in the form of the status, which have the attribute such as ID, path, status ID, timestamp and the user ID. But from this user ID which we have over here, we have to get the username for this user ID. So how we will do it? Because we do not have the data over here since this is a normalized table. So let's see from this user ID how we can get the username for this user ID. So the way we will be getting the username from the user ID is by using the technique of inter-microservice communication, which means that one of the microservice will communicate with another microservice to get the data. Because over here, if you see the schema of our table, you can see that our user table have the definition of user ID and the username, whereas our status table have only username. So if I can merge these two tables on the clause of user ID, we can easily get the username. So if you are not familiar with the concept of DB, I would request you to brush up your concept of merging of two tables, which will be helpful for you over here. So what we are doing over here is quite simple. We have a user ID over here, and this corresponding user ID will have a username in this table. So based on the user ID of the status table, we will go into our user table and we will get the username for that user ID, and we will pass from this service. So let's see how we will do it. So in real world, there are many ways by which you can implement the intercommunication between two microservices. One by using the REST template of Spring Boot application. Another way of implementing the intercommunication is by using the Eureka service. But since this is a small project and since all the classes are within the same project, we will not make the things too much complicated for this application. Rather, we will be directly calling the service class of our status and we will try to call the data from there. So let's start with the implementation so that it will be easy for you how we will be establishing the connection between the two services over here. So if we go to the user service that we have created, you can see that we can get the metadata of a particular user based on the user ID, which we are sending as a path parameter. So for example, if we want to get the metadata of this user having this as a user ID, we can easily leverage this endpoint to get the corresponding user ID. And over here, while implementing the status application also, we will take the advantage of this API to build our API. So what we will do over here within the status service, this will return all the status that are available within the Instagram, and the data over here will be coming in the form of an array. So what we'll do over here in the status service, after retrieving all the status by using the findAll method, we will iterate over the response, which is nothing but this array of status, and over here based on the user ID, we will call our user service to get the corresponding username for this user ID. So let's implement this functionality. So instead of using the arrow function and making things complicated, let's implement this with the simple logic of the Java functionality. So the first thing that we will be doing is we will be capturing all the status lists in an array over here. And over here we will put an iteration over each and every status that we are getting as the response. Now based on this user ID, we have to call our user API to get the username for this user ID. So what we'll do, we will directly call the user service from here. But remember, this is not the actual way by which you should implement the microservice application. But since the project over here is quite simple and a demo project, and that is why I am implementing in this way. So if you really want to know how a large-scale microservice is developed, feel free to let me know in the comments so that I can make a separate video on that topic so that it will be easy for you to understand. So let's start with this implementation over here. So over here we will create an object of our user service. And if you remember that within the user service, we have created a function called as display user metadata based on user ID. So we will be calling this function over here, and over here we will be passing the user ID which we are getting from here. So this will basically return an object of type user, and from this type user we need to find the username for that user. So we will use the getter and setter method to find the username for that user. So over here we will do get username. So this will actually retrieve the username for a particular user using our user service. and then we need to send this username in our status response. So we'll do a status item dot set username, and we will bind this username over here. And at the end, we will be passing this entire array as our response. So I hope you guys have got this idea of implementation, because this is a simple Java logic of implementation. So let's run the application one more time and let's check the user service using the Postman application. So it's running successfully. So let's go back to our Postman service and let's see whether we get the username over here along with the user ID. So let's submit this URL. So over here you can see that along with the user ID, we are also getting the username in our response, which we actually need in our front end for showing all the status in the status bar. So bingo, we have covered each and everything that we need for showing the status in our status bar. So right now we can move to our next API, and that is the post service for our application, which is more or less similar to our status service. And so over here you can see that all this application is quite easy to implement, and the structure and the way of implementing this API is more or less similar. So if you are familiar with one of the approach, you can easily create further APIs as and when needed. So let's start with the implementation of our next API, which is our third service, and that is the post service over here. So let's go to our documentation first. So over here you can see that for the post service, again we have to do the post get, and over here I will be keeping this put and delete for you guys as an enhancement topic. So let's start with the implementation of post service over here. And in this time I won't be wasting much time in explaining each and every component, because I hope you guys have already got the idea about the implementation of this API services. So let's start building our post API service over here. So let's first start with our database schema. So over here you can see that for the post service, we have to set the post ID, the user ID of the user who have submitted the post, the path, that is the image path, timestamp, and the like count for a particular post. So let's start with building this component in our application. So we'll first start with the creation of the entity class for post. So we'll go to our entity class over here, and over here we will be creating an entity class called as post. And just as before, we will annotate this with entity annotation, and we will name this entity as post. So let's start with creation of metadata over here. So the first one will be an auto increment ID over here. So now let's create the other metadatas over here. So the other metadata that we will be including over here in the post are the post ID, user ID, path, timestamp, and the like count. Now let's create the default constructor, parameters constructor, and the getter and setter for this class. So we are done with creating our entity class for our post. Now as you usually know that we will be creating our controller class for our API. So let's create a post controller within our controller package. So let's name it as post controller. And over here we will be annotating it with REST controller, as well as we will define the path for this controller, which is /post. So now we have defined this as our post controller. Let's now build the two methods for handling the post and the get request over here. And since this is a post request, we will be sending the post parameter within the request body. So let's define the post parameter within the request body. Now let's define the getter method for retrieving all the posts available within our database. So over here we will set our getter method, which will return all the posts in the form of an array. So over here you can see that just like our previous controller, over here also we have defined the post and the getter method for our post service. So let's now define our service class, which will handle all the business logic for the post submission. So let's create a new class within the service package. So over here you can see I have created a class and I have annotated it with the service annotation. Let's create the method for implementing the post and the get business logic. So over here we have created a dummy method for doing the post submission. Now let's create the getter method for retrieving all the post objects from our database. So over here we are done with our post service. Let's now from the controller class call our post service to create the connection between the controller and the service. So the first thing that we will be doing over here is we will create an object of the service class and then we will call the respective functions. So over here you can see that by using the post service object, we are calling the method of submitting the post to the DB, as well as over here we are calling the function of retrieving all the posts from our DB. So let's now create the repository class and complete the entire flow for our application. So over here in the repository package, we'll create an interface called as post repo. So let's write the repository function for implementing the retrieve and the save operation over here. So over here we are done with the actual logic within the post repo. Now let's call this function from our service class. So over here first we will create an object of the repo class and we will call the respective functions. And thus we have again completed the entire flow from creating the controller to service class and creating the corresponding repo for our post service. Now let's build this project and let's test that whether everything is working end to end or not. So I will restart the server and I will test that in our Postman service. So our project is running successfully. Let's test it out in our Postman. So the first functionality that we will be testing over here is the post functionality for our post service. So let's change it to post and over here let's change this to /post. And over here since we are submitting a post URL, that's why we have to send the request body as post. So let's change it to the post body. So over here we'll go to post and let's see what are the attributes that we have to send. So the first one is the post ID, then user ID, post path, timestamp and the like count. So we'll go to Postman and let's change it over here. So this post service is more or less similar to our status service. So let's click on send and submit it to the DB. So over here you can see that our post body got submitted successfully. So let's directly see in our MySQL DB. So over here you can see that we have successfully submitted the request in our DB. So let's also test the GET request for our post service. But before that, let's submit few more posts over here so that we can completely test the GET service. Now let's see in our DB whether all three got submitted or not. So over here you can see that all of the three posts got submitted over here. But one thing you have to notice over here is I have used an user ID that is 32434 which doesn't actually exist in our user DB. So when we will be mapping this user ID with this corresponding table, we will get an exception over here. So always remember to handle those type of exceptional scenario in your service class where all your business logic will reside. But over here since you already got that what can be the exception that you can get, so basically you will get a null pointer exception over here because this user ID doesn't exist in our main DB. So as a workaround, I will just put this user ID into our main database also. So I will just use our existing API that is the post service for the user. And over here I will put one more entry with this user ID so that I do not get any exception over here. So yes, one more user ID got created over here. Let's see whether we got the user ID or not. So yes, all the user IDs are present for which we have submitted the post. So I hope you guys have got the idea why I have done all these things. So right now you can visually understand that what I am doing. So basically I am submitting a post, and based on the user ID I am mapping this user table of this user ID with this one, and based on the username provided for the corresponding user ID I am retrieving the value of the username and showing it over here. So let's test the getter method for our post service. And over here I'll change it to getter method, and let's click on submit. So over here you can see that I got an error which tells that this getter method is not supported by our application. So let's see what mistake we have done. So we'll go to a controller called as post controller, and over here if you see we have changed the URL pattern to something different. So actually what we have done over here, to invoke this function we have to give /post/post, then this functionality will work, but which is not what we have meant in our documentation. So we'll just remove it from here, and let's rerun the server. So everything looks good. Let's test this out. So over here let's do a get on this URL and click on send. Bingo. So over here you can see we have successfully retrieved all the posts that we have saved in our DB. But if you have remembered, while creating our front end, over here in our post service, the dummy JSON that we have requested over here was expecting a username just like our status service. So over here also in our post entity, we will add one more attribute which is known as the username, so that we can get to know that what is the username of the user who have posted the particular image into our Instagram application. Let's set the getter and setter for this attribute. So over here you can see that we have got the getter and setter for our username. Let's now add the business logic of retrieving the username on our service class. So we'll open the post service, and we will add the same logic that we have implemented during our status service. So over here you can see we have first retrieved all the posts that are available in our database. After that we have iterated over each and every post, and over there from each and every post we are getting the user ID for each post, which we are passing in our service API, and we are trying to retrieve the username for each and every user. So the logic over here is quite straightforward, and it is similar to our status service. And as I have already told, this should not be the logic of implementing any microservice, because over here you can see that both the post service and the status service get coupled with each other, which is not recommended for a microservice architecture. But since this is a small project, I am showing it in this way. But in real world, while implementing the intercommunication between the microservices, you can implement some of the workaround or frameworks such as the REST template defined within the Spring Boot application, or you can use the Eureka framework also. So that I will suggest you to take it as an enhancement so that you can learn the most out of these videos. So let's proceed further and let's test out this functionality. So we'll restart our server and we'll test it using Postman. So our service is running successfully over here. Let's now test this out. So previously, if you remember, that our post service was retrieving user ID of the user who has submitted this post. Now after the modification, we should also get the username of the user who have posted this image. Let's click on send and let's see whether it's working fine as expected or not. So bingo, you can see that we got the user ID as well as username for a post. So the entire component that we need in the front end is coming up over here. So you can easily understand that how incrementally we are creating our APIs so that we can integrate it with our front end and we can deploy our full-fledged application within the cloud service. So that's great. Now let's build the final and the last API of our service, and that is the comment box for our post. but since the implementation of the comments API will be same as our previous API, so I won't be wasting much time in explaining each and every component. Rather, I will be implementing everything in a single go, and I will be first forwarding the video. So in case you need to implement each and every component, feel free to pause the video and go through the code. And in case you miss something, feel free to go to my Git profile and get the code over there. I will be attaching the entire project over there, and I will provide the link in the description below. So let's start with the implementation of the comment API over here. So over here we are done with the implementation of our comments API. So let's test the service using the Postman application. So over here the first thing that we will be testing over here is the post method for our comment section. So I will select here post, and over here I will change the URL to comments. And in the request body I will be providing the comments that our API is expecting over here. So let's go to our comments entity, and over here the attributes that are necessary for the comments object are comment ID, the user ID who have submitted the comment, the post ID for which the comment is attached to, the timestamp, the comment description, and then the username, which we will be finding from our user data. So let's build the payload over here. So over here this is the payload that we will be sending in the comment. So over here if I open our database, you can see that over here we are sending a comment, that is this is the first comment for the post that is 101, which is actually this post which is mapped with the post ID as 101, and the user who is submitting this comment is having the user ID as 1002. Which is nothing but this technical interview over here. So over here we have already built a mapping between the comment and the user ID. So let's post this thing into our database and let's see whether our application is working fine or not. So let's click on send. So over here you can see that our comments got submitted in our DB. So let's open the DB and let's see that whether the comments got persisted in our DB or not. So we'll type select start from comments. And over here you can see that our first comment got submitted, and that is this one. So great. Our comment API is also working. Let's submit one more comment and let's see that whether our get API is also working fine or not. So let's put another comment over here. So this time let's put a different comment for a different user ID. So let's save this comment. So our second comment also got saved. So over here in our DB you can see that both of the comments got saved. Now let's test our second URL, that is the get comment for a particular post, which will be used to get all the comments attached to a particular post. So over here in our Postman we will change it to get, and in the URL parameter over here I will be sending the post ID for which I am trying to find the comment. So over here the post ID is 104. So let's send 104 in our parameter and let's click on send. So over here you can see that our get service URL is also working. Here on passing the post ID, we are getting only the comments which are attached to the post ID 104. So it's great. So I think we have completed all the APIs that are needed for cloning our Instagram app. So over here you can see that how incrementally we have implemented each and every API service over here. Starting from our user, status, post and comment, we have covered all the functionalities that we need to have in our Instagram app. So in our next video tutorial over there we will be merging the front end of our application that we have built in our previous video with the back end of the application that we have made in this video, and altogether we will complete full stack end-to-end development of our Instagram app. So in our next video we will learn how to incorporate the Firebase authentication system for the user login. Number 2, we will know how to use the Firebase storage for uploading the image in our Instagram, and number 3, we will be persisting and retrieving all our data into our database, which will be coming from our front end. And after that we will be deploying the entire full stack application, that is the front end as well as the back end, in our cloud server so that everything over there works flawlessly. So I hope you guys have thoroughly understand this video and you have gone through each and every component that we have developed over here. And I hope that this was an helpful video for you guys for becoming a full stack developer. So if you have found this video useful, I would highly recommend you please like and share with your friends as much as possible, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update from my side and you are ready for your next interview. So see you on the next video where we will be integrating the front end and the back end together and we will be deploying in the cloud. So see you on the next video. Thank you.